Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. It has been a minute since Mac and I have done a podcast following a Clemson win. I know Mac is hyped up. I know you are.
It's been 84 years, if you get that reference. No, it's been good. It's been a long time, but it's great. Anytime Clemson beats Notre Dame, makes me very happy. Any ACC team, but my Tigers, of course, makes me very excited, KG. Makes me even happier that one of my best friends, Jordan Cornette, was there in attendance. He got to see it live and personal, the beatdown. So that was great. So anytime, the Tigers can get off to a hot start, it's fun to watch. And, Notre Dame hasn't beat Clemson in Death Valley for like 50 years. I don't know what the Golden Numbers are doing, but they can't get it done there.
They cannot get it done in Death Valley, that's for sure. Really glad that Jordan Cornette got that nice Clemson welcome.
That's right.
With that loss. And I think all ACC fans can rejoice when anybody beats Notre Dame,
yes,
as Louisville did earlier this year. But before we get into all these games, including Louisville, as they continue to make their way towards Charlotte, Florida State, of course, winning, and talk about Clemson, we have to remind people, Mac, that basketball season is upon us. I am so excited. And today is Monday if you're listening. So tonight we have the season beginning on ACC Network. I'll be on starting at 3. We've got the Virginia Tech women at 5, and then the UNC men and the Duke men. I'm not sure which order, honestly, because I'm focused on women's hoops. But we're going to have that. Mac and I will both be in Charlotte on Thursday covering the Iowa-Virginia Tech game. And we have a special episode coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And the Asheville Championship, Mac, is coming up very, very soon.
That is right, KG. Listen, it is crossover season for some of my dear friends. KG is going to be square in the mix. She's bringing me with her. We're talking some hoops. I'm super excited. Tomorrow is going to be an unbelievable episode. You guys won't want to miss it. But also go back and check out our Clemson preview episode where we dive into everything about the Tigers to really get everybody ready for, one, tip-off tonight, but also the Asheville Classic, like KG mentioned. Still time. Get your tickets. There's not many left, but you got to go do that. Go support your Tigers right down the road in Asheville. Great venue, awesome stuff, and a lot of Ingles in the area if you want to hit them up. So real quick, Thanksgiving is also coming up quick, KG, which is crazy to think about. Our friends over at Ingles want to help get you ready.
This is so beautiful. I don't know how you do it. We just got this pipe from Ingles.
Well...
Fire! Fire! It's on fire! Fire! All right, move it or lose it, people! Get the cranberry sauce!
We manage.
Happy Thanksgiving from Ingles.
Mac, there is no time to waste. Let's get to these football games from the weekend. Let's start. We'll go back to our big game breakdown and go down the order. So let's start here with Clemson and Notre Dame. Clemson beat number 15 Notre Dame 31-23. Phil Maffa had 36 carries for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dude was a monster. Clemson won the turnover margin, barely, but they did it. And Clemson had 0 penalties in this game. Mac, I was there. The atmosphere was really, really good. And, Clemson, it just felt like finally, after a season where nothing went Clemson's way, Clemson got some breaks in this game. I felt like that was the difference.
Yeah, and it was fun to watch, right? And cool to see Clemson, just really show out and flex their muscles and get up in a big lead in the first half. But I do have to say this, KG. It started feeling a lot like 2015, where Clemson offense got off, starting hot, big lead, and then just couldn't do anything. And here comes the Irish, here comes Notre Dame. And I'm just sitting there and I'm doing the math in my head and I'm like, is this going to come down to a stopped 2-point conversion again? Is that what we're going to see here? But the guys, Jeremiah Trotter, Barrett Carter and company said, no, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep them out. We don't have to worry about a 2-point conversion. Specifically looking at Jeremiah Trotter, I mean, that guy was a war daddy, flying around the field, led the team in tackles, led the game in tackles, had 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss, a pick 6, maybe even a fumble in there somewhere. He just absolutely loaded up the stat sheet. And really that linebacking core for Clemson was flying around. I mean, those guys were making a ton of plays Also in the secondary, you have to give them love.
Yeah.
Got their hands on like 3 or 4 footballs that they should have picked off. They got 2 of them. And it was just fun to see that group really grow up. The other group I have to give a ton of love to, KG, is the Clemson offensive line. Down 3 starters. Are you kidding me? This motley crew that they threw together that goes out there and rushes, for almost 200 yards against Notre Dame. 2 touchdowns. Phil Maffa just absolutely answering the call. With Will Shipley, one of Clemson's best players, out. They said, hey, put it on my back. 7's got you. And he just looked tremendous. Big burst runs, 41 yards. Had another really long one in there as well. And then just being a sledgehammer, on the goal line there. Only giving up 1 sack. The Clemson offensive line, I thought, was the MVP of the game with Maffa, of course, the things he did. But they were impressive. They were really impressive.
Mac, I agree. And the offensive line, it felt like this week the coaching staff said, okay, let's look at what we have and let's do what the players we have do best. And that is running the ball. This O-line has not been great in pass blocking all year, but they have been a pretty good run blocking O-line. So let's run it. And they did really well in that regard. And Phil Maffa was just exceptional. He can do both. Yeah. He's a workhorse and he has breakaway speed, which is what you want in a running back. And honestly, my question, Mac, is why hasn't Maffa been the number 1 running back for Clemson? It's not like he hasn't played. He has. But Shipley, I'm assuming, I would have to double check the numbers, but had more carries coming into this game and Shipley didn't play. But it's kind of baffling. And can you give me the stat that you gave me before we went on air, Mac, about Shipley and Maffa?
Which one was it?
The Shipley's longest run of the season was 21 yards.
That's crazy. And
Maffa's had like a 49, 40, like all these different ones.
He's
That's
had a
crazy
handful
to me.
of them. And just to kind of reference the stats here before, the 36 yard or 36 carry output, Maffa was about 40 carries behind Shipley. And when you see, the output that he has there, he's got nearly double the touchdowns, averaging about a yard more per attempt. So regardless, it's a great 1-2 punch. The kind of problem that I have, it's interesting you bring it up. I have said for 3 years that Phil Maffa can start anywhere in the country. Like, he's that good of a player.
Yeah.
It's just, those guys came in together. They're roommates. They're best friends. They have a really nice relationship. I would love for them, obviously, to use Maffa more, but also to use Shipley differently. Like, I just have felt all year that, go check my tweets. I put it out there. It's public record. It's just you're running Ship in the A-gap and slamming him into the offensive line. That's not the type of back he is. That's the type of back Maffa is. I want to get Ship out in space. I want to get him out on the edge. I don't want to, throw him a swing pass and give him an anchor and he doesn't catch it when there's wide open spaces against NC State and he can run for 30. It just feels like the misutilization maybe is the right word for Shipley. I just felt like this – thank you. I had to dig deep for that. I just feel like in this offense I had really high expectations for him to be much more versatile, much more of a weapon, and to have Maffa kind of as your true running back. And it's just we haven't seen it. We just haven't seen that. So maybe when he comes back, now that Maffa, I don't know if he had to prove it, but he did, that he's proved that he is more than capable of being a bell cow and getting that ball. Maybe that allows them to now say, okay, Ship, let's flex you out. Let's throw it to you. Let's get you an outside zone, jet sweep type of things. Just get him in space. He's too special of a player just to have him line up and take a zone read into the A-gap. Like, I don't want to do that 20 times a game. I want to get him the ball in space.
And Maffa's better at that.
Exactly.
Maffa's better at running in between the tackles. We know that. Mac, I don't see any reason why Phil Maffa is not running back 1 against Georgia Tech, even if Shipley's healthy. Am I wrong?
I think, you certainly play him a lot more. Again, I think Ship is – I can't think of what Clemson would be without Shipley all these years, but maybe Maffa would have been just fine, and helping them out.
I think he would have been just fine.
I think he's still a special player, but I don't know what his injury is. He might not even be close to ready, so it'll be fascinating to see there.
I'm not saying Shipley should be on the field. He should get touches, but Phil Maffa was special. Yeah. He was special. I mean, he completely outperformed Audric Estime, who we've been talking about forever, or nationally people are talking about him. But on the flip side too, Mac, you talk about this defense. I mean, Sam Hartman never wants to go to Death Valley ever again. I don't think he ever does. Clemson made it really hard on him. And with that pick six from Trotter and the other pick that Hartman had and the Notre Dame muff punt, that was huge. It just felt like finally Clemson caught some breaks. And they took advantage of them. You have to take advantage of them.
It felt kind of like that Syracuse game, oddly enough, where it's just things were going Clemson's way. And we've seen it two times this year. Normally, you see it a lot more, and Clemson able to capitalize on mistakes, not be the one that creates the mistakes. Kind of, too, I don't want to be super negative because this is an unbelievable win, but I also don't want to be all sunshine and rainbows because there was still a ton that I think this team can improve on.
Mm-hmm.
This was the most big plays I've ever seen against Clemson in a game, and they won. I mean, I'm looking at the box score here. I think there were 8 or 9 plays of 20 or more yards, and the ones that I can just see here right off the top, 25, run for 25, run for 38, a pass for 35, a pass for 22, a pass for 20, a pass for 21. There was more in there from that, but just really Notre Dame was able to hit these explosive plays and move the ball down the field. The key was Clemson primarily kept them out of the end zone and kept them out of scoring position. Very opportunistic is kind of the way that I would describe this game for the defense. Notre Dame still ran the ball for 183 yards. I mean, that's a bunch when you're talking about a Clemson Tiger team that usually thrives on stopping the run. So those couple of things you'd love to see them continue to clean up and just, beggars and choosers. I totally get that. The passing, I mean, was just it was so weird, KG, because Clemson was running the ball so well.
It wasn't good on both sides.
It was not. Clemson was running the ball so well that when they did pass and kind of when they passed, I was just like, what is happening? Why do you throw the ball there? And why do you throw that route? And, kind of one thing that I've noticed that it's so weird. I get caught up on words and how I want to describe these type of things. I'll say disappointed. Things that I've been disappointed. Clemson is doing a lot of weird spacing things lately where they're putting bunch sets to the boundary and they're not giving Cade a lot of room to number one, to read. It's very hard already. And now you're condensing things so small. And there's great examples of this in the NC State game where they have a bunch set, which is 3 wide receivers. Let's say it's to the left, which is the boundary. And they're running these spacing concepts that there's no room to do it. And so the defense literally takes 2 steps and they have everybody covered. I don't understand why they don't do that to the field and why they're not, just getting better spacing. And again, there's a bunch of examples of this, especially in the Notre Dame and NC State games. So I feel like they're kind of making it harder for Cade, just kind of given that. And man, they threw it to the tight end being double, triple covered like 5 times. I'm just like, why are we forcing that throw? Like, this is very strange, the timing and even the person that you're throwing to there. So I thought that was a little bit weird. Of course, the dropped pick. I mean, it's just like, due for that. Hadn't seen that all game. And then you just need one more first down. Just run the ball. You've done it 35 times, and then it gets ripped out. And I'm just like, this is just Clemson's year to do that. And it's baffling. Yeah. So, again, unbelievable win. Fantastic accomplishment. And personally, for me, I can't stand Notre Dame, so I love any time that anybody beats them. But for my Tigers to do it, it means that much more to me. But yet still some things to clean up. And this team, I think showed flashes. And certainly you found some key pieces and some young offensive linemen looked really, really good. Some young defensive backs. I mean, Clemson had like 11 starters out.
True.
And for them to do this, I mean, that was unbelievable. Showed grit, showed toughness through adversity. Oh, by the way, Coach Dabo Swinney becomes the winningest coach in Clemson history. So there was so much that happened in that game that, you just can't help but be proud about.
For sure, Mac. And I think, you mentioned the offense making it harder on themselves. That's kind of been the story of the season for Clemson, just making things harder on themselves than they probably should be. But when we talk about this passing game, Mac, and honestly, how much it didn't exist for Clemson, I think that's a concern moving forward. Some of the injuries with the wide receivers, it's really been an issue all year. I don't think you just snap your fingers and fix it. I think maybe your hands are tied a bit with personnel, and so that's why you're running some weird stuff. I don't know how to explain that, Mac. So I think
the other weird thing, real quick, KG, is just in 2 games, the lack of involvement of Tyler Brown has been shocking to me. And He had one catch, and I
Yeah.
don't have targets in front of me, but like, get that dude the ball. He's your best receiver. NC State, he had 6 yards. I mean, it's just it's weird. It really is weird. And we see, 3 games ago and for a couple of games in a row, they're just targeting him, like crazy. So I don't know. It is bizarre, but to see guys step up at different times, I've been really impressed with Troy Stellato and his involvement in this. And, preseason, I remember them, Clemson saying, oh, well, we don't really know what we're going to get from Troy. We hope, he's talented. We know what he can be, but we just haven't seen it enough. He's been exceptional, with the opportunities that he's gotten. So, just again, just the passing offense is an ever-evolving thing. We've seen it look brilliant. We've seen it look really good. And there was actually a drive that they threw it, to TB there to score the touchdown. I thought that was Clemson's best drive of the year. Just execution, throwing it to the middle,
sure. Yes.
A little bit of outside presence, running the football, and then a strike for a touchdown. You just hope it's something to build on, young team.
Well, I wonder with Tyler Brown because he was kind of banged up, and I think it was a game time decision overall. So maybe there was something there. Okay, last question with Clemson. Speaking of Tyler, was Tyler in Spartanburg planted?
Why are you asking me that question? Hold on, I want to know why.
Because
I want to know why
I'm
you're
at
asking
the point
this.
now.
Did you hear that? Was that the whispers in the friend group? Was that the whispers in the weekend?
No. It's just, here's the thing. Dabo is a master of motivation, and he needed something to, get his guys going. He's trying to turn the attention away from perhaps how bad the team has played to this random guy calling in. And I mean, look, Dabo's a mastermind. All right.
Yeah.
He's a mastermind of these situations. So is Tyler his cousin? Like, I don't know.
It's not Tyler from Spartanburg. It's Tyler from Pelham on line 2 here.
Tyler from Pelham. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm mainly kidding because Tyler from Spartanburg showed himself and Larry Williams wrote an article on him and everything. But it's kind of funny how that whole story gave this team, it seemed like, some extra juice, which is just, it's so college football. I love it.
No, I don't think that, number one. And, number two, I don't think I'm going to give that guy too much credit. I think that Clemson obviously rallies. I don't think that he's the secret sauce. But if we do think that, if anybody on staff thinks that, then Tyler, call in again in Tiger Calls. We need your help.
That would actually be hilarious if he does.
If
that would
they
be
ever
so
take that call again, everybody
and then,
fired
Dabo probably
with they're all gone.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Dabo's like, oh, Tyler, it's fine. Come on up to a game. Okay, let's get to the rest of our games in the big game breakdown. We were both wrong, by the way. We took Notre Dame. I think mainly because we were just
it was total common sense is why we picked that one.
And they did. Number 13, Louisville covers. I am done betting against the Cards.
Well, actually, Card Nation spoke, and they would actually rather you keep picking against them. So,
I guess so. I mean, look, whatever the Cards need from me, I'll do at this point. I'm happy for them. Number 13, Louisville beats Virginia Tech 34-3. This was domination. This was absolute domination. Louisville's defense was exceptional. They've given up 3 combined points in the last 2 games against Duke and Virginia Tech. Isaac Garindo was amazing. I mean, Jawar Jordan, it was kind of like he was second fiddle, if you will, and he still had a touchdown. I mean, I was just really, really impressed with Louisville. They got after Kyron Jones.
Yep.
Virginia Tech couldn't do anything. And then Plummer was also really good, really efficient.
Right.
They just looked like a top 10 team.
Did. And, I think is interesting is I can't remember how we exactly laid out this game because I don't know if I was as confident as I was by Saturday. But after after diving in it a little bit more, KG, I was looking at who Virginia Tech was doing this against. And Louisville at home
it's a good point.
With Jawar Jordan is a different team. And they're a super high caliber team, very balanced, very good offense, defense, almost elite. I think we can say that now. Potentially a top 10 team when the new polls come out here. And so it just, to me, I thought that kind of, midnight was going to strike for Virginia Tech. I thought that, Cinderella was going to kind of have its run there. And, they run into a bit of a buzzsaw here with Louisville. And that's exactly what happened. I kind of want to focus on the defense first, KG, because those guys played with their hair on fire. I mean, 4 sacks, turnovers, getting the football, creating and wreaking havoc. A bunch of different guys, not named Ashton Gelati. I thought Ashton might go off. Virginia Tech, I thought, did a good job of, trying to contain him and really identify him. But everybody else feasted. And I thought that was very impressive. A team that since Kyron Drones has been playing, I believe is averaged right close to 200 yards a game rushing. They hold him to 68. I mean, that's a big deal, and that's really impressive. And then to hold him to under 70 yards passing, at least Kyron Drones there, it was just a great total team effort. And those guys are again, you talk about ascending at the right time. This is what you need to do. In November, you've got to be playing your best ball. And then on the offensive side, I was slightly concerned, not really, but slightly concerned, when we heard, their best wide receiver in Jamari Thrash was not playing.
Yeah.
I was like, uh-oh, this will be interesting. But then I remembered Louisville can run the heck out of the football. And, when you have a guy like IG step up out of nowhere, and rush for 3 touchdowns, 146 yards, as your second running back, super impressive to see that.
Crazy.
And then Jack Plummer not making mistakes. And I kind of talked about this. I know you might think a little bit differently than I do. I don't necessarily think being called a game manager is a negative connotation. Now, some people do because, if we're talking about elite quarterbacks, you say, no, he's a game manager. He's not like a Lamar Jackson or a Trevor Lawrence type guy. But to control the game, to check in and out of plays, to not make mistakes, and to be this high caliber of a team that they are, Jack Plummer's the ultimate game manager right now. I mean, this guy has really kind of found a role and is sticking to it at a high level.
But if you're just talking about a really good college quarterback who is going to lead a team, trying to lead a team to an ACC championship, no, it's great. Especially when you have these kind of backs, when you have these weapons and you have this defense. Basically, you truly just need to manage the game. Don't mess it up. And Plummer he was 11 of 12. Like, he was great. So tons of credit to Jack Plummer.
Uh-oh.
Mac, I have a question for you about Louisville. And maybe someone else has already discovered this. Maybe I'm just crazy that I just randomly discovered this. And people are already talking about it. And maybe I missed that. Louisville's 2 worst games of the season.
Pitt,
they
obviously.
were what?
Pittsburgh and I'd probably say NC State.
Pitt. Correct. Okay, those 2. What do those 2 games have in common, Mac? They were on the road. Here's what I discovered. Both of those games were played on grass.
Whoa.
Every other game they've played has been played on turf. So on one of my favorite websites, cfbstats.com, I went to the game log of Louisville because I was just looking at some of their stats, and it tells you the surface that it's played on. And it was turf, 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 turf. NC State was grass, turf. Pitt was grass, turf.
Fascinating.
Isn't that interesting, Mac? So when you look at the rest of Louisville's games, at home against Virginia, turf. At Miami, Hard Rock is grass, right? Okay, so keep an eye on that one. And then Louisville at home against Kentucky, turf.
That is amazing. I'm trying to think of weather, too. So Carter Finley, it doesn't tell me what the weather was. We know, obviously, the weather was horrific. Probably not, right?
I don't think it was that bad.
I'm looking at pictures. I don't think it was bad.
And you didn't have
Carter
Jordan. Like, obviously, that's...
Oh, yeah. That's important.
But this is a team that's home field is turf.
I've been on some turf that, like, sucks. And it's horrible. It feels loose or kind of chunky, super weird. But then I've also played on turf, where you feel fast. Like, you're rolling. But, yeah, I like playing on turf. It was fun. Sad.
Anyway, Mac, just doing a little investigating. Okay, let's talk about Florida State. Number 4, Florida State beats Pitt 24-7 on grass. A sleepy, weird game. No Keon Coleman, no Johnny Wilson. Jordan Travis still played well, still threw for a bunch of yards. I mean, that first half was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it just kind of felt like, Pitt, don't do this again, And Florida State wasn't going to let it happen. But Florida State had some weird turnovers. And, I mean, I've said it wasn't a trap game just because I felt like Pitt was not capable of winning. But Pitt definitely hung around.
I think that we can state the value and the loss of not having your two best wide receivers, especially Keon Coleman, who has been the go-to guy and just an absolute freak. The way that he can catch the football, the plays that he can make. I think that was very important that those two guys were out. And what did Jordan Travis do? He threw for 360, with some backups in there and a handful of tight ends, right? Like he's doing whatever he can to get people involved. Ja'Kai Douglas goes for 115 yards. I mean, that was awesome to see guys stepping up to make plays, when they need to. And I think that's what championship levels teams do. It truly is a next man up mentality. So that was great to see. But there also was some weird, uncharacteristic things like, JT taking a 15-yard sack, like just a really bad play, like just throw it away. And honestly, he could have gotten hurt. I mean, he's kind of, jacking around, looking downfield, and then he just gets blindsided in the back. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't good, man. Get rid of the ball. But he's trying to make a play. That's the type of dude he is, that he always, is going to try to extend it and to make things happen downfield. But he had an exceptional game and thought he led really well and, kind of had a resurgence in the third quarter where they scored 14 points and kind of put it to bed there. Again, we saw from Trey Benson, massive 55-yard touchdown to the house. Was really impressed with that. And then, just some of the defensive linemen stepping up, making tackles for loss, making their presence kind of felt, and getting in the backfield for 3 sacks. So I liked what I saw from Florida State. A little bit of I'll say a speed bump on this ascending path I thought they were really taking off on. But Pitt's a hard place. Look, it's cold up north, a stingy defense, a stingy team that is always going to fight. You got to give them credit for that. And so to come out there with a double-digit win is good enough.
College football is such a weird sport. For them to get just blown out by Notre Dame and then really be in this game in the first half, and the defense looked so much better against Florida State but give up 58 to Notre Dame. It's just, it's weird. College football is weird. We know that. But Florida State survives. They handled their business overall without arguably their best player in Keon Coleman and then one of their best players in Johnny Wilson. They have Miami this week. Florida State, Miami week, even though Miami could not handle their business last week or whatever this week we're talking about. But good news is for Florida State is they won't leave the state of Florida for the rest of the regular season.
That's right. No
they
question
won't be
about
in
it.
any cold places. So that's good for FSU. Mac, because I spent so much time on my turf grass theory, we need to roll through this speed round. All right. Let's talk about NC State and Miami. NC State beat Miami 20-6. Someone here picked Miami. It was me. Yeah. NC State at home. Their defense was really stingy, Mac. You were there. The atmosphere looked awesome. And just credit NC State. They're bowl eligible at this point. They've had a lot of bumps in the road. They've had to change quarterbacks, all this.
I've said many, many times, Carter Finley, one of the toughest places to play. Anytime someone asked me about that in the ACC, I would always say Doak Campbell, because when I was playing, that place was rocking and the Noles were balling. And then NC State was always second. And they just they're passionate, man. They love their football. And overall, Boo Corrigan and company have done such a great job, Coach Doran and the visionaries there, of increasing that game day experience. The lights are sick. I mean, they do this thing where they just flood it red and it looks like a scary movie. And they kind of dance around and do all these things. The Jumbotron was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Not only, impressive and big, but also like super crystal clear. It was like 4K up there, KG, watching that thing. And the sound system was awesome. And of course, the fans brought it and absolutely were a part of that game. And I thought made it difficult for Miami to really do anything. And so they had a big key in there. But, yeah, that defense is just sick. I mean, Peyton Wilson, he's so impressive. Just as not only a football player, but just as a man and as a leader, to see what he's gone through and the trials and tribulations that he's had to go through to get to this moment. Because, if people remember back his sophomore year, I believe it was, 100-plus, tackler. And he kind of in his mind is, hey, I just got one more year and I'm out. I'm in the league. I'm doing my thing. And then he goes through this horrific, stretch of just bad injuries and can't stay healthy. He admittedly so came on our show and said, kind of in that time, my walk with Christ increased so much, because I had to lean on something. I had nothing. And, he was there for me. Kind of grew up that way, but, admittedly so kind of faded away a bit just in college and then just right back where he is. And so that was really fun to hear that, and cool to hear that. And just such an instinctive player, fast, physical, literally plays the game with no regard for his own body. And there's very few that play at that level. So love what I saw from them. Again, Kevin or Casey Concepcion, the best player on the field. Just get that butt guy the ball, get out of the way. They put him in a lot of different spots, slot, running back, quarterback, whatever it takes to get him the football. And for him to be able to absorb and retain all that information is impressive for a young true freshman.
And that's what you said last week, Mac. You said get him the ball after the Clemson game. Get him the ball in any way. And I'm giving you credit because last week I said I felt like Clemson lost that game more than NC State won it. And you said, no, give NC State more credit for what they did. You did that. I did not. They beat Miami. Obviously, the 3 picks from TVD killed Miami, but give NC State's defense credit. I mean, they made them happen.
There was also a couple sack fumbles in there too. I think NC State had 4 total turnovers.
The worst possible times.
That's tough. It's hard to do when you're kind of beating yourself. And Clemson fans know they're experiencing it. Right now, this Clemson team and the things that they've done all throughout this year. When you're in that red zone, you have got to score points, and most of the time you want to score touchdowns. Like 3 just isn't going to cut it. And he's just, I don't know if he's not seeing it clearly or maybe trusting his guys too much. It's a little bit of a problem. But this NC State defense, man, they've got great length. Aiden White is just freaky. I mean, the way that he kind of baited that touchdown, that interception in the end zone was very impressive to see. And, what a great performance for Coach Doran's victory. We talked about Coach Dabo Swinney. Coach Doran to become the winningest coach at NC State. 78, great number. Love that. So pretty cool to be in attendance, to get to talk to him and just see how much this university means to him. And, kind of said in post-game, we came here to break records, and that's exactly what he's done. So really cool to be a small piece of that and to be there.
NC State,
right?
It's amazing how much things can change, right? Because NC State, after they lost to Duke a couple weekends ago, everything, we were saying, are they going to make a bowl? Now they beat Clemson and Miami back-to-back. They have Wake next. They have Virginia Tech on the road, Virginia Tech. And then they have a UNC team that's really struggling. So who knows what NC State could do? Yeah. So keep an eye on NC State. Let's continue our speed round. Boston College is bowl eligible. One of the best turnarounds from the beginning of the season to now in the country right now is Boston College. They beat Syracuse 17-10. This was a crazy game, Mac. I think my favorite play of the whole game was the fake punt on that final second to last drive, I guess, for Boston College, which was just crazy.
This dude was 3 yards past the line of scrimmage and then goes to fake punt again.
Okay, I'm going to go.
I'm like, dog, run. You are not fast.
Yes,
run.
And he was still acting like he was
It was so funny. I love seeing
you can't punt anymore.
Not athletic people run. It's a funny thing to see there. But yeah, absolutely right.
Panicking.
And here's the deal. I told you guys 4 weeks ago, BC's going to be bowl eligible in the next 3 games. And that's what they've done. These guys are just playing at a high level. And when you have a quarterback like Tommy Castellanos, it's
you called it, Mac.
He's such a firecracker, such a wild card, something you have to prepare for each and every week that you don't normally see until you play him. It's just hard. He's just different. Leading the team in rushing and passing, obviously. The throws that he makes, the decisions that he makes. This dude is fun to watch. And something flipped for him because, early in the season when he wasn't starting, but he was getting in and, he's getting 15-yard penalties and yelling at the other team, and he's stepping out of bounds a yard short of the line to gain on, 4th down. And I'm just like, this guy's not it. He's just not ready, for this moment. And then everything changed. I don't know if someone got in his ear, if somebody had a conversation with him saying, look, dude, you can be really good. You just have to understand what it takes to be a leader and what it takes to be on this team. He's completely turned it around. And these guys, I think, feed off of him. I think the entire team, not just the offense, but the offensive line has been really playing at a high level. And to have, some young guys step in and step out and do their thing, when other guys go down, it's been impressive. So this BC team is really fun, KG. They're fun to watch. And I'm looking at their, coming up schedule, Virginia Tech at Pitt, Miami. Let's go do something crazy.
think it all kind of changed for Tommy Castellanos, the FSU game.
Yeah.
Because they lost, and they had so many penalties. It wasn't really his fault. But how he balled out against that defense, maybe that was just a, hey, look, I can do this kind of thing. And I am not saying he is this guy, because he is not as good as this guy. But when I watch him, and he's wearing number 1, and he's little, and he's got the hamster legs, he looks like a little Kyler Murray. He does.
Yeah.
I am not saying he's Kyler Murray. Don't come at me. Okay, Mac, our last few games here. Georgia Tech destroys Virginia. We were wrong on this one. We were right on Boston College, thankfully.
Oh, yeah.
But Georgia Tech beats Virginia 45-17. I thought losing Tony Muskett on the 5th play of the game really hurt Virginia, because Calandria is such a wild card. You don't have your leader in Tony Muskett. But Virginia gave up 50 million rushing yards to Georgia Tech. And when you do that, it's not going to work out well. These were the 2 worst rush defenses in the ACC. And, Georgia Tech said, oh.
Yeah. Georgia Tech was supposed to lose this game because it was a even number game. They can only win odd. So that's the only reason that I picked Virginia.
Yeah,
and here they go. They just make me look like an idiot.
Win-loss,
I'll have
win-loss.
to talk about Roddy about this on radio here, so I can really check in with him. But, man, 44 rushes, 305 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that is sick. And I was texting back and forth with Coach Key and just knew how proud he was of that team. And he said, yeah, man, sitting here having a little brown water, listening to you guys talk about my jackets. So, he's feeling good. And, again, another team, I feel like there's been kind of this middle of the season, second half kind of awakening, if you will, for some teams and figuring out who they are and who their identity is. And, if you remember kind of early – Georgia Tech was slinging it and taking shots and trying to figure it out. And, Haynes has been a great quarterback. And I think he's been really exceptional what he's doing. But they were bombing it out a lot. And now they're kind of like, look, we can run the football. And Haynes King, obviously a huge part of that as well. He's been electric. I mean, a couple of touchdowns, almost 100 yards on the ground.
Right.
So this team's fun to watch. I feel like they're only getting better. Big test this weekend for both teams going to the Valley. Clemson obviously having success for the first time in a while, and then a Georgia Tech team that again is playing their best football right now.
As we all suspected, the winner of Georgia Tech Clemson on November 11th would become bowl eligible. We thought that completely on both sides. Some people thought Georgia Tech would not make a bowl, and some people thought Clemson would be in the playoffs. So here we are. Mac, a few more games here. Duke beats Wake Forest on Thursday night, 24-21. Wake has some back-breaking turnovers. Of course, no Riley Leonard, but Grayson Loftus, the young freshman, was able to get it done. Really, Duke's defense and running game got it done. But Duke, I've said it before. I actually said it when they did not cover at Louisville. But in Mike Elko, we trust. I mean, that guy, you let him know what he has. So you have this true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, no question about it.
He's going to say, all right, he's going to put these guys in the best position to win. He impresses
the grit,
me every week,
from
really.
Loftus, being a young guy and, who knows how long he knew he was going to be starting this game, short week, getting in there and going against an ACC opponent, and a Wake Forest team that, has a lot of skill and a lot of great players on their team. It was an absolute battle. Have to give love to Mitch Griffiths first, by far his best game. And thought that was probably the guy we'd see all year, and hopefully he'll continue to grow and be able to be that. But this Duke team just stands tall, and specifically looking at number one, the tying touchdown at 21, where it was just kind of a weird spot. Duke couldn't really get anything going, and then boom, 3 plays, they get a big penalty, and then I believe it was a shot, like a 30-yard shot. Touchdown, kind of over the middle, passing touchdown to Jordan Moore. Super impressive throw, like a strike. And then the last drive of the game, it's tied. You get the ball back with a pick, so it's typical Mike Elko way, right? Our defense stands tall. They get it for us. And then a 10-play, 54-yard drive to kick a game winner. Super impressive. So this team finds a way. Obviously was in a little bit of a skid there.
That was impressive.
Losing a couple in a row, 3 out of 4, and then get a big W here. So impressive for Duke. They've got a big one. We're going to see them play, at Chapel Hill. They've got a big one this weekend that we'll check out there.
Well, perfect transition to UNC finding a way to beat the Camels of Campbell 59-7. It was a little close early on, Mac. UNC rolls as they should against a team of this level. I honestly don't think we learned really anything from this game. You could say, they got the run game going.
I think what
and
you
Drake May
learned
looked good,
is
no picks, etc.
Maureen Hampton's a bad man.
We'll
and
find out more.
Continue to
next week.
understand that.
They
Hand
did
him
what
the
they're
rock,
supposed to do.
144 yards. He even had another 50-yard touchdown that came back, and a couple of plays
Give him
later
the
he
ball,
hit it again.
though.
And it's just like, geez, this dude is a freak. I think another thing you found out, Connor Harrell, the backup, he's kind of nice. This will be fun to see if he can continue to grow. He threw a dime for a touchdown and then had a 50 or 60-yard run to the house. And I was like, dang, I didn't know he had that in his bag. So it's fun to see these games and kind of get a little bit of a flash of the future. Cedric Gray, bad dude. I mean, he's just a freak. Love watching him play. But this defense has to respond. I look forward to talking about this game more, Duke and UNC, on Friday, because I'm going to have some thoughts on how I think this thing's going to go. But we also appreciate you guys for tuning in. Of course, our great friends over at Ingles, but we need your help. We need you to come over to YouTube and have some fun with us over here. Subscribe, leave some comments. We appreciate you guys in the chat there going back and forth. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe there as well. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.